I spend a lot of my time teaching creativity, which sounds kind of really bizarre. I mean, teaching creativity, it sounds like, teaching a bit of the dance to architecture. It's kind of ridiculous. It seems like it's something that's not even possible to do. But that's what I attempt to do. And this comes from the fact that I have been around lots of different creative people in lots of different disciplines, in lots of different projects over the past 20 or so years. And one of the most helpful things that I teach people from the get-go, especially those who are sort of entering into kind of creative practice in a work context, is that you don't think ideas, you recognise them. This is profoundly important. There's this notion that our ideas are this individualistic sort of work of genius. That simply isn't true. One of the best examples of the fact that we don't think ideas, we recognise them, comes from the fact that many of us have the same ideas at the same time when we're given the same brief. This happens often, and we often accuse people of sort of stealing our ideas, but it's because we're always drawing from the same dots and sources. The best example of this is this. The cartoon character Dennis the Menace. In 1951, Dennis the Menace was invented by a cartoonist in the UK and a cartoonist in the USA and published 5 days apart. And those two cartoonists had no connection to each other whatsoever. And it's known as the Dennis the Menace coincidence, and it's published and usually used as an example of plagiarism in plagiarism cases to sort of show the fact that these random events can occur. But this isn't a coincidence. I think you hear this story that this thing was literally invented by two different cartoonists at the same time, and we feel a little bit kind of eerie about it. It feels like the Mandela effect. It feels like there's some sort of glitch in the matrix when these profound coincidences happen. But if you hark back to what's going on in 1951, it's not such a crazy notion that two people came up with this idea for a cartoon character. For those who don't know, the character of Dennis the Menace, which is, they look identical, they've got stripy shirts, they also had very similar characteristics. They were basically mischievous young boys. And in 1951, that makes a lot of sense because they are representing the first babies born of the baby boomer generation, these post-war children. So think back to that time. If you're in 1951 and you've settled, it's peacetime in the UK, it's peacetime in the USA, that idea of a mischievous, carefree child is an incredibly enticing sort of possibility. Another thing is the fact that at that time as well, the Cold War was just kicking off. The fear of the USSR, the Soviet Union, bombing, but not only kind of getting into kind of war with the USA and the UK, but also the idea of communism kind of infiltrating the society. And that was known as the Red Menace. It was written up in books. It was in newspaper headlines. There was a movie at the time called The Red Menace. So it was in the culture, the title. And also, just to top that off, the name Dennis was the 17th most popular boy's name in 1951. And right now it's sitting at a bit of kind of a dwindling kind of around 600. So if you want to be original, instead of, calling your child Apple, call them Dennis. So where this comes from is dots. Again, we need better ways to come up with better and more original ideas by cultivating where we get our dots from. It's essential, it's important.